Hello, Giants fans. Thank you for watching the Giants Alliance channel. We were just live on one of my Instagram accounts, Giant Source. So thank you if you are coming over from there. And I noticed there's some people in the chat already, like Kid Blue, Jawad, Patrick, Simon. Thanks for coming, Lank Nona. So we were talking.
You can't forget about Mercedes Benz. What's going
Oh,
on?
Mercedes Benz. What's up, man? I've never noticed you in my chat before, so I appreciate you coming to the channel. Please subscribe. But thanks, Entertainah, so much for coming and being on 2 shows of mine. I know it's like it's a little much, but I appreciate it, man. So we were talking about some of the players during training camp, but the biggest story the last couple of days has actually been Joe Judge and our coach. And a lot of people have given him criticism, like Shannon Sharp, for making the players run laps, and they're saying it's like a JV football team or something like that. And I totally disagree, but I've noticed he's made such a big impact on like even the way the players talk to the media, where they'll say like, "Oh, we're just doing our job," and they don't answer certain types of questions about injuries and stuff like that. So yeah, I've noticed like that similarity to Bill Belichick. Have you noticed any like major differences between Joe Judge and Belichick, or do you feel like they're pretty similar? Or
That's actually a really good question. The first thing I'll talk about is the New York media it's a joke. The media is an absolute joke. They got nothing to talk about right now. They have literally nothing to talk about. So they're like, we got to get our clicks. And I know it as a YouTuber. There's plenty of YouTubers who do things just to get clicks. You see it all the time. And that's what the media is doing. It's like clickbait content. It's like we can't just talk about pleasantries and give the guy a real chance and see how he does as a coach. No, we got to start to criticize him because he's having people run laps. At the end of the day, let the guy do what he wants to do. He's the coach. Start evaluating when the team gets on the football field and give him a fair shot. I don't read anything into this, and if anything, I'm happy that Joe Judge has been a disciplinarian. People are worried about that he's going to push it too far. Listen, I think this is the right group of guys, if you're going to be that type of tough coach, to do it with. It's a young team. You don't have any veterans on this team. These are all guys trying to prove themselves. The old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, you can teach a new dog new tricks, and they're trying to get these guys in shape. They're trying to create a culture. They're trying to create discipline. This is the same team last year. They're falling asleep in meetings. I am completely for what Joe Judge is trying to do. Now, yes, is a guy like Jason Garrett running laps, or Burton Burns, who's old enough to be a grandfather, running laps? Is it maybe a little bit silly? Sure. But at the end of the day, he's trying to create unity. He's trying to – you've seen this since he's gotten the job. He's trying to instill nobody's better than anybody else. He wants to create unity, a family culture with the New York Giants, and he doesn't want to put Daniel Jones above Colt McCoy. He wants everybody to be the same. That's why they've taken the names off the back. I'm completely for it, and that is very similar to something that you would think that a guy like Bill Belichick would do. In terms of some of the differences, I mean, to be fair, I don't get to watch Bill Belichick week in and week out like I do, the New York Giants coach. It seems like Joe Judge is maybe a little bit more personable with the media and things like that. Belichick seems to be very closed off, even though once in a while I'll have a wise remark. But overall, I think it's too early to really have a full grasp on Joe Judge and really give you some of the differences. He's definitely got a lot of similarities, but you expect that. He's coming from Nick Saban, who coached with Bill Belichick, and then he's coming from Bill Belichick. So you expect him to pick up on some of the things that he's gotten from both of these guys. But I'm sure we're going to see plenty of differences, as he matures as a coach with the New York Giants. But, we'll see. I think his defensive philosophy seems somewhat similar, but that makes sense. Patrick Graham coached with Bill Belichick. So we'll see. But it's too early for me to really give like a definitive difference. But I hope that there are some. I want him to be his own man, and I think he will be.
yeah, I agree with you. Like, I feel like he's different than Belichick with the media. Like, Belichick can be really short and cold. He can be really good with the media if he wants to, but he doesn't really care, I feel like. But I feel like Joe Judge gives long, like, detailed answers with the media. He does a really good job with that. But this arm that I'm using for the microphone was actually given to me by Nick DeWick. I really appreciate it. And he's telling me I should turn down the mic. I don't know if do you think it's like too loud, or maybe I'm like too close to the mic?
Maybe a little too close. I don't know. Maybe a little too close.
Yeah, maybe I'll turn down the volume, or I'll sit back a little bit. So I appreciate you guys coming to the stream. I see CFC is here. What's up, man? Jawad, Raymond. Yeah, this team has been really bad the last 3 years. We have the worst record in the NFL since 2017, which is crazy. But yeah, I think we're gonna be a little bit better this year. I don't know if we'll be a serious contender, but I do think we'll be better than we have been the last 3 years. What are your thoughts like on the actual season? Like, do you feel like do you think we'll sneak into the playoffs, or do you think it's too early to say?
I mean, I want to say that, and I'm not giving up hope as a fan. You go into every year, it's football, so anybody can make the playoffs. Anything can happen. But realistically speaking, unless we get a lot of things to bounce our way, are we going to make the playoffs? No. But I try. But that's not a bad thing. This is a team that's growing, and I'm trying to display that on my channel. I'm trying to be realistic. I don't want to set expectations too high, so then people are like, "Oh, fire this guy, fire that guy." No, that's not the way it works. It's a rebuild. It's only year 2. People want to say it's year 3. It's year 2. We started the rebuild last year. And it's going to take another year for this team, in my opinion, to get to the point where you could say going into the year, my expectations are they're going to at least compete for the playoffs going late into the season. Anything could happen. Maybe the Giants catch a ton of breaks. Everybody stays healthy. That hasn't happened in a long time for the Giants. And maybe some other teams have some injuries. And maybe it's possible. Maybe you catch some teams on the right week. Or maybe Daniel Jones takes a bigger jump than I think he's going to. Maybe he asserts himself as one of the top 6-7 quarterbacks in the league by year's end. And if he does that, anything's on the table. But realistically speaking, with the shortened offseason, no preseason games, the schedule that we're facing, with a young team learning completely new schemes on both sides of the ball, and a coach that's 38 that's never been a head coach before, all those things factored in, not to mention DeAndre Baker's arrested, Rosas arrested. Can I go into this year expecting playoffs if I'm being an honest and objective and realistic fan? No. Could it happen? Sure. Do I think we're better than people are giving us credit for in the media in certain circles? Yes. When I read that people think we're going to go 2-14 or 3-13, I don't agree with that. I think this is too talented of a team to win less than 5 games if they stay relatively healthy. So I think we're better than people give us credit for, but I think because of the schedule and all the factors, no, I don't have us pegged for the playoffs.
Yeah, if I had to bet on it, I would probably say no, but I do think we have a decent chance, like maybe sneaking in because there's like that extra wild card team, and I think we'll be a lot more competitive than we've been the last few years. But yeah, Alex Sports is here. I appreciate you coming to the channel, man. He's also a great Giants YouTuber, and yeah, I'm gonna try to sit back. I actually need to wear glasses. That's my thing. I think that's part of the reason I'm always too close to the computer. But yeah, you were talking about Daniel Jones. If the Giants do end up like sneaking into the playoffs and being a lot better than people expect, it's going to be because Daniel Jones, plays a lot better than he did last year. He doesn't have as many turnovers. He fixes his fumbling issue. Do you think he's going to be like, all right, so like, let's say you're picking in fantasy football. Do you put him in like those top 10 quarterbacks? Like, is he somebody you're going to target at the end of your fantasy football draft?
Not as a starter. I think he's a good backup because of it. He does have upside, and he's a decent fantasy quarterback. The thing is, I think the Giants are going to try to run more this year than they did last year, which I guess hurts Jones from a fantasy perspective. I think it makes him a more efficient quarterback, which is what I care about. So I think he's going to have a good year. I just don't think. Do I think he's going to have a Carson Wentz-like year, like Wentz had in year 2? If I'm being honest, no. I think there's way too many factors. He's learning a new scheme. It's possible. Not likely. But that is what they would need. They would need him to be a top 5, 6, 7 quarterback to make the playoffs this year. Now he has some help. Saquon Barkley, you can't ask for much more help than that at the running back position. I think he does fit this scheme relatively well. He likes to take shots down the field. However, I would like to see him rein in his game a little bit actually this year. And I don't normally say that with quarterbacks. Normally, I like my quarterbacks to take the shots. I love Eli Manning. I don't like quarterbacks like Alex Smith for the most part. I don't like check down guys. I don't mind if you throw picks as long as you're making the big plays to go along with it. But I do think Daniel Jones was a little over the top with it last year. I think he needs to pick and choose. He's got to take the yards when he can get them. I want to see him throw a little bit more to Saquon Barkley rather than try to force the ball at tight windows as often as he did last year. So that's one criticism I'll bring up that maybe a lot of people don't. They usually point to the fumbling and everything else. I would like to see him be a little more conservative sometimes and not always try to take that shot into double coverage.
Yeah, I agree with you too. Like, I know it's a lot easier said than done, but I would like for our offense to look a lot more like Tennessee's last year, where they were just running the ball nonstop and they were running it down people's throats. And then, Tannehill did a really good job when he got in there of like doing play action and making like efficient passes. So I would like Daniel Jones to play more similarly to that. And Tennessee had a really good offensive line last year, so I'm hoping our offensive line could like allow us to play a similar style. But I noticed there was a question here. Oh yeah, so for the Pittsburgh game, we're less than a month away. I feel like our defense actually matches up pretty good with Pittsburgh's offense because James Conner is that kind of physical running back who, he's not like overly fast or athletic, but he breaks a lot of tackles. And we have a strong defensive front. We have slower but stronger linebackers. But I think our offense is definitely going to struggle against Pittsburgh's defense.
Yep.
Do you think we have a chance in that game? Like, what are your thoughts on the first game of the season, Monday night?
I definitely think we have a chance. If I had to pick, I'm probably picking the Steelers. I think it'll be a really close game. I think you bring up a really good point about our defense. I actually do think our defense matches up pretty well against them. They don't have any, Juju Smith-Schuster, a good receiver, but he's not a guy that creates a ton of separation. They don't have an elite wide receiver on that team. I think we match up pretty well with our interior defensive line. Like you said, Martinez is good. Mayo's good against the run. And Connor's kind of a thumper. So I agree that our defense matches up well. Our offense, the only way we're winning this game, outside of creating a lot of turnovers, because you do that, you're going to win almost any game. But realistically speaking, the game plan going into this game has to be to run the ball as much as you possibly can. With the pass rushers that they have and the inexperienced offensive line that we have, Dan Jones is going to get killed if he's got to throw the ball 40, 45 times. So the way that we're going to win this game, Barkley's got to have an effort like he did 2 years ago against the Bears. And if he could do that and have 120, 130 yards on the ground, I think we'll win. And that has to be the game plan going in. It has to. Barkley's got to have upwards of 25, 26, 27 carries in that game. We got to run out the clock. We got to keep that defense fresh, on our side. And we got to set Daniel Jones up for efficient passing opportunities. I'm not going in there expecting Jones to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's not the game plan in this game. We got to win this game in the low 20s, high teens. It's got to be a 2017 type game. Got to win the time of possession, and we got to create some turnover opportunities on defense. But yeah, it's going to be with running the football against Pittsburgh, no doubt in my mind, if we're going to win that game.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And like the player that scares me the most on Pittsburgh, the entire team, is TJ Watt. And I think Watt's probably a top 5 pass rusher at this point. And he usually lines up against the right tackle, so that's probably going to be Cam Fleming. And they're going to have a major advantage in that matchup. So yeah, I think if we do win that game, it's going to be because we run the ball well. And Pittsburgh's defense is like, it's kind of like the old days when Pittsburgh had like a top 5 defense. Like they're really good. So that'll be a fun game though, because it's Monday night, and I know Kirk Herbstreit is like announcing it. So I can't wait already. I know it's like a month away.
I think in that game, I expect to see a lot of max protection. I expect to see a lot of 2 tight end sets. I think you're going to see Caden Smith out there a lot. You're going to see a lot of I formation. Don't expect, I think you'll see a lot of, an extra offensive lineman in a way with the 2 tight end set. You're going to see that fullback out there. Penny will be playing a lot. I expect to see the Giants have an old school offensive approach. We're going to try to smash in the mouth. We're going to try to beat you up at the line of scrimmage. That's got to be the strategy going into that game. There's no doubt in my mind. We cannot get into a shootout with Pittsburgh. Daniel Jones will get killed if we do that, in my humble opinion. So I think it's got to be 2 tight end sets, I formation, pound the ball down their throat, pound the rock, set it up for 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 situations, gives you the ability for the play action rollout, 2nd and 5, 2nd and 6 situations. We've got to be unpredictable on offense in that game to win. Yeah,
I agree with you with the two tight end sets. And like I saw a clip yesterday of Caden Smith. He was having a blocking drill against Carter Coughlin. He was sort of manhandling him. So Caden Smith's a really good blocker. Levine Toilolo, who's like a 3rd string tight end, he's a really good blocker as well. And he's going to help the tackles like Andrew Thomas, who's a rookie, and Cam Fleming. I feel like he's going to help a lot in pass protection, in certain packages. So I could see 2 tight end sets with Caden Smith and Levine Toilolo out there. And maybe, Evan Ingram might not play every single snap, because I do think if we're going to have a chance, we're going to have to run the football. And Ingram's a good run blocker. He's getting better at run blocking, but I wouldn't consider him like a good run blocker.
Oh, yeah. No, the other 2 are definitely better.
Yeah. So, Yeah, so MH, thanks for coming to the stream, man. What's up, PTA? He's an awesome Giants YouTuber as well. Definitely check out his channel. He said, "What's up, guys? Things are getting very interesting." Yeah, so I'm excited for the season's almost here. So Entertainah, call the Mets game. Are the Mets playing this afternoon, or are they playing?
No, they suspend. From what I read yesterday, they suspended the entire series.
Ah,
I might
yeah.
call a basketball game today. We'll see. I want to have a Giants video up later today, but we'll see. But yeah, some of our best are in here. MH is in here. Belly, what's going on? Jay's in the chat. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate everybody for being here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming. Jay Berman, he always comments on my videos, so I really appreciate it. Yeah, so we've been talking about fantasy football, and we talked about Alex Smith had Alex Sports had a really good question, and we touched on this during the Instagram live stream, but a lot of the undrafted free agent receivers have gotten like rave reviews during camp. Like Benjamin Victor made a really nice play against Darnay Holmes. Austin Mack, I've heard a lot of good things. I think Sills has probably gotten the most praise out of any of those guys. And then Alex Bachman, who's like a receiver out of Wake Forest that, some people say is really good on special teams, so he has a good chance. And Cody Core was like one of our best special teams players. He had the most special teams tackles on the Giants last year. So I actually think Austin Mack has the best chance out of all those guys because I see him as a more physical receiver. He's like 215 pounds. He played running back in high school at Indiana, and he was like the best football recruit in the entire state. And so he was a really highly regarded high school recruit. He didn't really perform as well at Ohio State, but they have so many good receivers. So I'm going to say Austin Mack. Do you have somebody else? Like which guy do you think has the best chance out of all those undrafted free agent receivers?
The point you bring up with Mack is maybe it attributes to special teams as a gunner, and maybe they look at it that way, and he replaces Cody Core. Never thought about that. That's a really good point that you bring up. I think, like I said during the Instagram live stream, I think that we're going to get at least 2 undrafted free agent wide receivers that make the team. After Cody Core went down, so we'll see, and maybe Mack is that replacement for Core. But I think Sills has definitely stood out so far. He's a guy that I've definitely said keep an eye on. And he was a guy I was kind of rooting for last year. And Victor, we don't have a wide receiver that's a tall threat in the red zone. And I think both of those guys would accomplish that. So I think both of them are definitely the favorite for me. But that's a really good point that you bring up with Mack. Maybe he does make it due to special teams. I don't really see anybody else as a real viable threat. I don't. I don't think Dylan's making the team. I don't think John's making the team. Tony Brown was a guy I was interested in when we brought him in. He's 6'2", seemed to have some upside, maybe, but I don't think so. I think it'll be Victor and Sills as my favorites, but maybe Mack does make it through the special teams.
Yeah, and another guy is like CJ Board, and he's not an undrafted guy, but he played, I think, a couple games last year with Jacksonville, and supposedly he's done a really good job. So I feel like our receiver depth, which a lot of people thought was a major issue, actually might be like a strength of ours because I do like Austin Mack and Benjamin Victor a lot. I'm hoping both of them could somehow make the team. I don't see that, but I do think they're going to at least make the practice squad because I like their potential a lot. So
yeah, especially with the expanded practice squad. They got, I think, 16 spots now as opposed to 10.
Yeah, and they have like different practice squad rules, I believe, where you can like protect certain players on the practice squad. Yeah. I think both Victor and Mack, I think, are definitely players that the Giants should protect because I like their potential a lot. And Raymond said predict teams in top 3 pick for 2020-21 draft. I would say Washington, Carolina, Jacksonville. I'd have to look at the entire standings, but I kind of agree with you that Washington is going to be really bad this year because I'm really down on Haskins. I've heard you say during your streams and stuff that you think Haskins has a little potential, so he might be better this year, but I don't think he has good weapons either. So I kind of agree with Raymond's top 3. Do you have a different idea of who might be like the worst teams?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if I'm a Skins fan, I'm excited about my defense. They got 2 really good young pass rushers. They got a good interior defensive line. McLaurin might be the best receiver in the division by year's end. He's really good. But outside of that on offense, the offensive line is subpar. They didn't do anything to improve it. I'm not a big fan of Haskins, but I do think if you give him the right supporting cast, he could become a good quarterback, but they're nowhere near having that. So with all that being said, I don't expect Washington to be that good this year. But we'll see. They definitely match up well with the Giants' weakness. They definitely are going to be able to get pressure on Daniel Jones and, with those edge rushers. So that alone could win you a few games. So you got to worry about that as a Giants fan when we play them. I don't like the Jets this year, and I like the Jets somewhat going into the year. But now you lose, and I agreed with the trade. I made a video on it. I talked about it. I thought they did a good job getting the return that they did. But the Jets lost their two best defensive players. Mosley out with obviously the COVID, and with all that being said, I think the Jets could struggle this year. I think they're going to be in the bottom 5. That's another team I'll throw in there. But yeah, I mean, Carolina, I'm way down on Carolina. I don't like a lot of things that they did this offseason. The Jaguars, to me, stink. If I had to pick a team that's going to finish with the first pick, I think the Jaguars are the favorite. But, yeah, I think I'd throw the Jets in there as well as a potential team that could get the first pick. Some of it due to bad luck, But, yeah, that's my personal opinion. And the Jets,
I feel like with the Jets, because Adam Gase, I feel like there's already been rumblings in the locker room about, players not liking him or respecting him, and it seems like he has a little bit of Matt Patricia in him where the players don't like playing for him. So I feel like if they get off to a bad start, he might lose the locker room, and then they could have like one of those like 2-14 seasons. But I don't think the Jets are that good either. I agree with that. So Belly asked a good question. Do you think the Giants and Jags should trade Williams for Yannick? I would love Yannick because I feel like that's by far our biggest weakness is edge rusher. And he's very good he's a very good pass rusher. He's not that good against the run, but we just need somebody that teams have to worry about on the edge. So I would do that trade. I don't know if Jacksonville would.
I do the trade.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I don't think Jacksonville. Like, if I'm Jacksonville, I don't want Leonard Williams. I want the picks. Leonard Williams will be a free agent next year. Doesn't add up for me. I want the picks. And they're going to trade. They're going to do it for whoever gives them the best pick. And if you're the Giants, you can't give them a first because there's a very good chance that you're going to be picking in the top 10 next year. So you can't do that. And if somebody's willing to give them a first, it's a more competitive team. They're going to get them. And I just don't. I don't view the Giants as a win-now team. And if I'm not a win-now team, I'm not looking to give up premium assets to try to bring in Yannick this year. There's going to be other options in free agency next year. He's not the be-all, end-all. I like Yannick. I would love him to be a Giant. That's one of our biggest weaknesses on this football team. And, yeah, if we could trade Leonard Williams for Yannick, absolutely, but it's not going to happen. Doesn't add up for me. I don't see why the Jaguars would want Leonard Williams. And I just view a team that's looking to compete like maybe the Colts or maybe the even though it would, it's within division, so probably not. But that's just an example off the top of my head. The Patriots, there's teams out there that I think are a better fit than the New York Giants.
Yeah, you make a really good point, I think, about the timing of it. I don't think the Giants are serious contenders, even if we do get Yannick. So it doesn't make sense to trade premium draft picks for a player that you have to give so much money to because you're going to have to sign him to a big extension as well. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to trade for him, but he is the kind of player that I think we need at the same time. So, Adam Johnson Jr. says, who do you guys think will win the battle for third running back between Leak and Gallman? I'm actually leaning towards Leak just because I've heard so many good things about him in training camp from all the beat reporters, and he's really talented for an undrafted free agent running back. He averaged, I think, 8 yards a carry. He's really good on kickoffs. So I'm actually leaning towards Leak. Do you agree with that for the third running back spot?
I think Leak's making the team. I think both of them might. I could see them going with 5 running backs, including Penny. It's tough. I mean, I think it's going to be a near even split. I'll even throw Deion Lewis in there. I mean, I don't think Lewis is definitively going to be the number 2 running back if one of those guys really impresses. Gallman was decent in his rookie year. I think any one of them could end up being the primary ball carrier behind Saquon Barkley. Throw him in a hat. But I do like Leak's upside and the fact that he can contribute on special teams. I think he's too valuable of an asset not to make this team. So we'll see. Leak's got to keep playing well in training camp. We've heard really good things about it, though. They said he was, very good with the cuts yesterday, everything else. I like Leak. I like his upside. I think all 3 of them are going to make it. If I had to pick, I'd probably slightly lean Leak, but I wouldn't be surprised either way. I think it's so close. I think all those guys are going to get like 3-4 carries a game. I don't see any of them being like a 9 or 10 carry type guy. I think it'll be an even split behind Barkley.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance both of them could make it too. And I think Gallman's a tough runner, and he's a pretty good receiver out of the backfield as well. So I could see them both making it. I want to read Jay Berman's comment. Jury is still out on Haskins, but I honestly don't see him as a starter. To be fair, let him prove his daughters wrong. Who can name former Ohio State quarterbacks who did really well as NFL signal callers? Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but yeah, they had so much talent at Ohio State. They had like Paris Campbell, Terry McLaurin, KJ Hill, who was drafted this year with Mac and Victor. So yeah, he had a lot of talent at Ohio State. I think that factored into how well he played.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, historically, I think the only quarterback that's done well in the NFL under that scheme was Alex Smith. I think he coached him back in the day at Utah, if I'm not mistaken. But, the thing with the college thing, I always think I don't ever read too much into that. Like, people always bring that up, USC, Ohio State. I don't read into college quarterbacks too much. But I do agree with the mindset that you just said. He had a ton of talent. So it's much harder to evaluate him, how he's going to do when he's put in a different situation. I still think it's way too early to judge Haskins. I don't think he should have came out in the draft when he did. I think he's got talent. He's got a strong arm. We'll see. He came out for money. Everybody knows that because he viewed this draft class as a much richer quarterback class. And even if he improved, odds are he wasn't going to pass Herbert, Tua, so on and so forth. So I think it's too early to say that Haskins sucks. But at the same time, I don't think he has the foundation in place for him to be successful yet. I think the Redskins need to improve that foundation, and I don't think they did enough. So I don't expect a lot of Haskins, at least this year.
Yeah, it probably would have helped his development as a player to stay in college one more year because that was his first year starting at Ohio State. And like Daniel Jones started as a freshman at Duke, and he went into Notre Dame and beat Notre Dame as a freshman at Duke. So he definitely has more experience than Haskins in that sense. So, there was some other good questions I wanted to get to. Would you trade a second-round pick for Yannick? So if it was just a second-round pick, I might consider that because I feel like in the second round, if you're going to go edge rusher, you're not going to find somebody as good as Yannick, like 90% of the time, So I think I might do that, actually. I wouldn't trade a first-round pick for him.
Yeah, I would. I think I would. Because I'm going to say two reasons. Like you just said, you're not going to get more than likely you're not getting a player nearly as talented as Yannick in the second round on average. The guy's one of the best. I think he led the quarterback in pressures 2 years ago.
Yeah,
one of the best edge rushers in football. Really good at stripping the quarterback. So yes, I would do that. The other reason is if you acquired him and you weren't going to keep him, you're going to get a third round comp pick. So you're giving up a second for a third for a year worth of Yannick. It's not that big of a loss, I suppose. So with all that being said, yes, I think for a second-round pick, I'd do it. But I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are willing to give up a second-round pick, and we'll see. I mean, it's possible. Maybe the Jaguars look to get him out of the conference, but we'll see if the Giants are even interested.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I would do a second-round pick for him, but I don't know if they're going to – I just don't see the Giants trading for him, unfortunately. So Raymond says, how much research have you guys done for the 2021 prospects? So I have my own Giants website where I made a big board. So I've been looking at just the top prospects at this point. And I feel like next year we're going to end up taking a cornerback. I just have that feeling because of what happened with DeAndre Baker. One player out of Ohio State that's not going to play college football this year, most likely, because Big Ten's not having a season. But Sean Wade is a cornerback a lot of people have talked about. Another cornerback is Surtain from Alabama. I could see us going in that direction. But have you done any research? Have you looked at the mock drafts for next year, or you think it's too early?
It's too early, but I've done a little research. I Surtain, like you said, I've looked at Wade the corner. Obviously you got Rousseau, the edge rusher. He's a possibility. Parsons, the linebacker. Those are the guys I've been looking at. I think they're going to go defense if I had to guess. They could go wide receiver. But it is supposedly a very rich wide receiver draft class. Yeah, I think that they'll wait around maybe two to take a wide receiver next year. I could be wrong, and it all depends on where they're picking too. So it's just way too early to evaluate right now of which way they're going to go. But I've talked about that a lot. A lot of Giants fans don't want to hear it. They're sick of corners. The defense we're trying to implement, you need strong corner play. With Baker out, it definitely makes it a possibility that the Giants could be going corner in the first round next year if they do fall in love with one of those prospects. I think corner, linebacker, edge. If they're going defense, it's going to be one of those three, and wide receiver on the offensive end if they go offense.
Yeah, I think center actually. I used to think that would be a major need, but Nick Gates supposedly has looked really good at center. Am I talking too close to the mic? because like Nick was saying, I should change the setting on my microphone, but I for some reason I keep getting closer and closer to the computer. But if you think I'm too loud, let me know, because like
I think you sound all right.
okay. Yeah, so I'll keep it. But yeah, I think Nick Gates has looked really good at center in training camp. Like for everything I've heard, he's really good at like calling out the signals, and he's a really smart player. He's not overly athletic, and he doesn't have the long arm. So I've always thought he would be better inside. So what are your thoughts about Nick Gates at center? Do you think he's gonna struggle never playing that position before? Or it seems like he's definitely going to be a starter at this point, because he's always like with the first team. And I've heard good things about him from like the beat reporters. So, do you think he's gonna do well as a first year center?
I mean, he'll probably take his lumps just like anybody learning a new position. But I mean, I'm going to trust the coaching staff at this point. And Mark Colombo has said great things about him. He said he's been a beast at the center position. Daniel Jones says he's comfortable with him, and that's the most important thing. Obviously because of the exchange between the center and the quarterback. So we'll see. I mean, I trust Nick Gates. I think he's definitely a hardworking football player. The guy's an undrafted free agent. He's made his way up through the ranks, and we'll see. I mean, we got to give him an opportunity. That's for sure. He can't be worse than Jalapeno. Jalapeno was awful last year. I mean, every play it seemed like there was pressure up the middle. So I think he'll be hopefully he can't be worse, like I said. So he should be an improvement. And I want to give him an opportunity and see what we got there, because if he is good, you're going to have a cost-effective center for 2 more years after that extension. So hopefully he works out and it gives us more freedom in the draft. I agree with you. I thought center was a big concern. It still could be. By no means am I sold on Gates. I haven't even seen him play the position yet. But if Gates works out to be at least an adequate center, it gives us more freedom in the second round of next year's draft.
Yeah, I get the Rich Soibert vibes from him, because he's an undrafted guy. He's really tough. Mark Colombo called him the alpha male at center. So I kind of like him at center for some reason. I think him next to Will Hernandez, or in between Will Hernandez and Zeitler, we could have a really good interior of our offensive line if he works out. But Adam Johnson asked a really good question. Is there a veteran corner in free agency right now that you guys are interested in bringing in to compete for a second corner spot? Or do you feel comfortable with what we have in-house? I don't honestly feel comfortable at this point with who we have, because I feel like you need 3 really good corners, and if they're going to find the weakness, like if you remember the Bears last year, Allen Robinson was just picking on Ballantyne in the slot.
Oh, I remember. I called that game. I was screaming the whole game.
Yeah. So like, I feel like something like that could happen again. And I thought Ross Cockrell was perfect. I thought he was a solid player. He's not elite or anything, but I was kind of disappointed that the contract didn't work out. Is there anybody that, because I saw you did a video on like the free agent corners, is there anyone that you have in mind that you would really like the Giants to pick, or do you think we're okay with what we have?
We're definitely not okay with what we have. If I'm being honest, I don't trust the corners that we have right now, and hopefully Love is the answer. We'll see. I think he's probably going to be the starting corner at this point, or Ballantyne. I think at a bare minimum, we need veteran depth. And I've talked about a number of guys. I've talked about Brandon Carr. He's a Band-Aid. He's 34, but the guy stays healthy. He brings experience. He's played for the Dallas Cowboys and for Henderson, the DB coach. Tremaine Johnson's another name that I've thrown out there. Of course, Logan Ryan. He's more of a slot guy, but, Logan Ryan's the most popular name. Why am I forgetting his name? The guy that played for the Cowboys, the former 6th overall pick.
Claiborne or Claiborne.
Claiborne.
Yeah.
There's another guy. And there's a bunch of others that are out there, and maybe they'll pick up somebody off of somebody's roster when they make the final cuts from 53. But I am not confident with the corner play that we have right now on that second spot. I definitely think we at least need depth behind it. I don't trust them going in. Julian Love was not drafted to be an exterior corner. Now you're asking him to do something that you didn't anticipate him to do. He just learned the safety position last year. I don't like the idea of taking him off of that and bringing him to the second corner. I would have liked Cockrell to sign here or to bring in another player.
Yeah, I thought Cockrell would have been perfect. I think we should bring in somebody, like you said, like Fitzpatrick or Claiborne, because we need depth. And I think Holmes is such an important pick. I heard you talk about this a little bit last night on your live stream, where I think Holmes might actually be more important to the defense than Xavier McKinney. And McKinney was like a high 2nd round pick. Holmes is a 4th round pick, but I feel like corner is more important. And I feel like, Holmes is. Imagine if we didn't draft if we didn't draft Darnay Holmes at this point, we would be in a lot of trouble. So, do you think? Do you agree with that assessment that maybe Holmes could be like the second most important rookie on the team?
He definitely could be. And I think slot corner is one of the most underappreciated positions in the sport. You look at the course of history in the NFL over the last 15 years. What's been the most prominent position in terms of increased, I guess, attention from the quarterback? It's been the slot receiver, and you need guys to take away that player. The Giants really haven't had a good slot corner. They haven't had anybody that could take away the tight ends either. Not that I think Holmes could do that. He's not big enough, but I think slot corner is very important. I've done videos on this, and I think you did a video talking about it as well, where the percentage is like triple over the last 15 years in terms of frequency throwing to the slot, because quarterbacks and offenses have realized with the evolving defenses, we got to get the ball out quicker. And I do think a guy like Darnay Holmes is vitally important. So I do think he could be he might be the second most important rookie on this year's team. I also think the fact that you're only asking him to do one thing makes it an easier transition for him than a guy like McKinney, who you're going to be asking to play multiple roles. So I think Holmes could have the second highest impact of the rookies this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Simon says I'm a little bit louder than you, so I'm going to try to sit back farther. But it's just I'm trying to reach the computer to ask questions at the same time. All right, so he asked a really good question. Simon's a really good supporter of mine too. I really appreciate it for you coming to the stream today. So he said, do you guys think Julian Love has the physical attributes and play style to take the second corner position for a long time? And I love Julian Love as a player. I think he's just a good football player. He has really good instincts. He was actually really good against the run last year. If you look at his PFF grades, he was better against the run than he was against the pass. And but I like him in that role where he's sort of like a safety corner hybrid. Mm-hmm. And if you look at where he lined up last year, because I was looking at PFF, he actually played more at slot cornerback than he did at safety, and they kind of had him like a little bit everywhere. So I kind of like him in that role where sometimes he's in the slot, sometimes he's back at safety. But do you think he's capable of being a good guy on the outside, or do you think he should stay where he was from last year?
I mean, I'm sure he's capable, and if he gets the opportunity, hopefully it works out. But like I said at the top, I mean, he wasn't drafted for that. We didn't expect him to be that coming in, so that wasn't thought to be the best way to utilize him. So I want to put these younger players in their best possible situations to succeed, and I don't think by putting them on the outside, the New York Giants are doing that. And it's not really the Giants' fault what happened with Baker, and we don't have a lot of depth at that position. But I mean, it's possible, but I wouldn't bank on it. I think he's best utilized, like you said, as a slot, as a third, as a center fielder in terms of the safety position. So, to me, that's not the position where I want to play in at.
Yeah, I think if he's going to play to his strengths, he's going to play like a little safety and a little slot corner. So, yeah, maybe they'll be forced to put him outside sometimes because of our lack of depth at corner. But and I thought corner was such a deep position. Obviously, when Beal went out, that changed things a lot. But Jay Berman says Gates starts at center. Does that translate to Fleming starting at right tackle? If that's how they plug in, it doesn't leave much depth. Fleming and Gates at this point are very valuable for depth and versatility. Yeah, I think Fleming ideally would be like a swing tackle and like a backup. But I think he's going to start at right tackle. Are you worried about that position? Do you think that Fleming can hold his own at right tackle?
He's not very good, but it's not like Remmers was good either last year. Hopefully he gets the job done. I think he has to start. And, I know people have talked about Parrott. I think he's got to start. And listen, if Parrott wins the job, he wins the job. I am not in favor of starting two tackles to start the year in a shortened off season. I want to see Fleming starting. I want to see Parrott be able to learn from the bench, similar like Julian Love last year. Julian Love talked about that. The last 5 games that he got to play, he thought he did a better job because he had an opportunity to sit back, learn the game. Well, the Giants have that opportunity now to do that for Matt Parrott, and I want them to do that. I think Gates will be the center. I think Fleming will be the starting right tackle. And I think Parrott will be his backup, and Pulley will be the backup center going in.
Yeah, Parrott, I always talk about arm length, I've noticed, but he did have the longest arms out of any tackle in the draft, and he looks like a lot bigger than he did when he was at UConn. Like, he added some muscle. Like, Daniel Jones has gotten a lot of publicity for his, his muscle and stuff like that, but Parrott got so much bigger, Just from like the eye test, he looks so much bigger. So I feel like he could be really good in the future. But yeah, like you said, I don't feel comfortable with him starting right away. So I hope Fleming could hold his own. But yeah, Raymond says, but Judge said he will prioritize people on the team first. He believes they can develop the DBs. Yeah, do you think they're going to actually sign somebody? Like, what do you think they're actually going to do? Do you think they're just going to go with what we have, or do you think we're going to sign another corner?
I think we definitely could. I mean, Judge may have said that, but the Giants literally just brought in a guy. They just didn't sign him to a contract. They were ready to make Cockrell a Giant. So that tells me that they're open to the possibility of bringing somebody in from the outside, but they're also not willing to spend a lot of money. It didn't work out with the contracts. My guess is Cockrell wanted a little bit more than what the Giants were willing to give him. And I think last year Cockrell was making about $3 million. So that's why as soon as that fell through, I said, there's no way we're getting Logan Ryan. If they're not willing to give Cockrell $3 or $4 million, they're not going to give Ryan 9 or 10. So I think it'll be a veteran guy if they bring somebody in, but I definitely think it's still a possibility.
Yeah. Is it cool if we go around like 2 or 205 if we go into them? I didn't talk to you about it too much, but yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man. This is a lot of fun.
Of course, man.
So what was I going to ask? Oh, yeah, I had a really crazy question I wanted to ask you that was a kind of a hypothetical. So I had this written down. If you could go on like a time machine and just grab any Giants player from history and add him to the team right now, I think it would come down to Lawrence Taylor in 1986 or Eli in 2011. Which of those guys would you want to bring to the current Giants if you can? If it's, in like an umbrella academy, they can go to like any time period and just, I've heard you talk about that show. That's like I love that show. I watched the whole thing. But if you were the Giants and you could just take one guy from Giants history and like add him to the team, who would you pick?
I got to go LT. I got to go LT. He fits the scheme. He's the greatest defensive player who ever lived. And I love Eli Manning, but Eli Manning to me, even with this team, we're not winning a Super Bowl with Eli Manning. LT, he might with him. I mean, he would completely change that defense. He's the type of player that could take a defense like the Giants is now, which you kind of probably have around 25, 26, 27, and he could make them a top 10 defense. He's that influential. LT.
I wouldn't. I never saw him in his prime. I was born in '88, but like my dad used to tell me all the time, the teams would just, game plan their entire offense to stop LT, and they couldn't do it. Like they would double team, triple team him. They would always run the ball to the opposite side of the field, and LT would like chase it down somehow. Yeah. So I feel like if we did have LT in his prime on this team, we'd be serious contenders. But yeah, he was the best.
I will say though, if you're talking just specifically 2011 Eli, that 1 year, Manning's one of the greatest quarterbacks probably in the history of football for that 1 year.
Yeah,
he was ridiculous.
I don't remember how many comebacks he had. I think he had like 7. Yeah,
it was the record, most comebacks ever in a season, and he was able to put that team on his back. They didn't have a run game. They didn't have a defense in the regular season. Eli Manning that year was almost as good as it gets. So it is a good question. If you're not talking Eli overall, you're talking about just 2011 Eli compared to 86 LT. It is close because he was that good that year. But I'd still have to go LT.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment of it because, like, Eli, in 2011, our defense wasn't that good the entire season, but they did play well in the playoffs, and he carried the team on his back. But LT is just like, he might be the greatest football player ever. You can make that argument. I think Belichick, if you ask Belichick who's the best football player ever, he'd probably say LT over Brady. Do you agree with that? It seems like whenever somebody tries to compare like Khalil Mack to LT, he's like, come on, there's only one LT. So
I know it's not the popular, I guess, talking point. Everybody just automatically says Brady. Brady's great. Brady's a hard worker. Brady's not Brady in another situation. LT is LT in any situation. You can put LT on any team with any coach, and he's producing the same exact result. Which is why when I talk about the quarterbacks, I'd probably have Peyton above Brady because I think you could put Peyton in any situation and he's still Peyton. I think you could put Marino in any situation and he's still Marino. I can't say the same about Tom Brady. I don't think Tom Brady's still Tom Brady if he's in different situations. So some people may not agree with that talking point. They're just going to look at the trophies and the Super Bowls and the playoffs, and I get it. And that if that's how you want to judge your quarterback, he's the greatest. But I like to look at it as I could put LT in any situation, and he's going to influence the game the same exact way. I don't believe I could say the same thing about Tom Brady.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like the first three Super Bowls when Brady won during that first dynasty, that was like a defensive football team, and they ran the ball. Like Brady didn't put up like ridiculous stats. Like he got really good. He's been getting better and better. Like he's not human, where he's going to be 43 and he's like as good as he's ever been almost. But yeah, I think I agree. I think LT is the best football player ever. I just in dominance, and quarterback has a bigger impact than like outside linebacker, but I feel like he was just so much better than anyone else at his position. Where you can make an argument, like you said, that like Peyton Manning is better than Brady if he was in that situation. Maybe Manning wins even more Super Bowls than Brady did.
Yeah,
so
I think the better argument is because I don't know if anybody wins more Super Bowls than Brady. Because one, the biggest reason Brady won as many Super Bowls as he did is because he took less money, and the roster around him because of it. But I don't know if Peyton wins more Super Bowls. But the question is, does Brady win as many Super Bowls as Peyton if he's with the Colts? And if he's with the Broncos, does Brady win any Super Bowls with the Packers if he was in the same situation as Aaron Rodgers? That, to me, is the better question because I don't think Brady had the work ethic. And if you have the work ethic and you're willing to buy into Belichick, I think Brady and Belichick were a perfect fit. Perfect fit. But the question I often ask myself was, does Brady win that Super Bowl in 2011 with the Giants? Is he capable of putting the team on his back with the support system that Eli had and winning a Super Bowl? I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, and Brady's I can't remember the offensive line coach for New England, but he's like a genius, and he's been offered all these other positions, and he's stayed with Bill Belichick. And they've always had good offensive lines for him. They've always had, Belichick, who I think is a genius. So I do not think Brady could win with the 2011 Giants. That's just my opinion, but I agree with you about that. So he's the NFL GOAT. I actually almost named my son Eli. That would have been my choice over his current name. But my wife didn't like that name, so I like that. I would have done it. I would have named my son Eli. That's really cool, though. Yeah, you named him Eli. I agree. You have a really good assessment of Brady. I agree with that. Yes. Did you watch the like NFL when they were making like the best? I think it was like the All Century team, and LT said that Reggie White was the best defensive player ever. Do you think he's just trying to be nice? Or do you think he actually thinks that about Reggie White?
I honestly don't think in his heart he thinks that.
Yeah.
I don't think you could be as great as any of these athletes and believe that somebody's better than you. I think they all have an ego. And when you're as talented as, no, there's no way. LT knows he's the greatest. I think he's being, humble. But no, LT to me is the greatest defense. I don't even think it's close. When you hear the things that he was able to do in the era that he did it, how he changed the game. To me, it's LT.
Yeah, I think Reggie White might be like in the top 5, but I don't think he's close to as like an impact on the game that LT had. And who would you say in like the last 20 years would be the best defensive player? Because a lot of people, I put a video on my Instagram with like LT, and then I got a lot of commenters from like the younger generation that Ray Lewis was the best defensive player ever. Do you think he's probably the best defensive player of like our generation?
Probably. I mean, he's up there. Ray Lewis is Deion Sanders. Ray Lewis, Darrelle Revis for a short period of time was as good as I've ever seen at the corner spot. Troy Polamalu was really good at the safety spot. Ed Reed was a great defensive player. Warren Sapp was a great defensive tackle. Strahan was a great defensive end. Those are some. Urlacher, really good middle linebacker. So those are some of the names I think of when I think about the greatest defensive players of our generation.
Yeah, I actually think like Ray Lewis and Ed Reed might be the two best in like the last 20 years. Because like if you ever listen to Belichick talk about Ed Reed, he is so praiseworthy of him, and he respects his game so much. And same thing with Tom Brady when they were talking about he made the best team at like the All Century team as well. Ed Reed was such a good safety. Ed Reed was better than Ray Lewis. I think that argument could be made. He was such a good safety in his prime, but do you remember that play when Brandon Jacobs like broke the tackle of Ed Reed in that game? It was like 2008.
Yep.
When we ran for like 200 yards on like the best rushing defense. So
that's one of my favorite Giant games of all time. I was at a bar for that game, and the Ravens had the best defense in football that year. And the Giants just you knew what they were going to do going up against the bet. That's when I look. When the Giants did that day, I said to myself, "There's no way we're not winning the Super Bowl." And then Burris did what he did. But the Ravens knew what the Giants were going to do. They were the best team equipped to stop it, and the Giants ran for like 250 yards. They just pounded the ball down their throat. That's one of my favorite Giant games of all time. For a regular season game.
Yeah, like in 2008, that offensive line was, I think, the best in the NFL, and that's why I really like the way this team's being built, and that's like part of the reason I'm so optimistic about the Giants now. And I haven't felt this way in like a long time, but I feel like in the future, our offensive line is going to be Andrew Thomas, left guard is going to be Will Hernandez, center Nick Gates, right guard could be Shane Lemieux when like Zeitler decides to move on, but Zeitler's not that old either. And then Matt Pert at right tackle. I feel like all of them are good run blockers. So do you see I don't know how I could like frame this as a question, but I just feel like in the future we could be kind of like the Tennessee Titans, where we could run the ball and teams like can't do anything about it because obviously Barkley, but I think our run blocking offensive line is going to be like our biggest strength. So.
I agree. I think that's what they're trying to become. And to be honest with you, if we want to win Super Bowls, we better become that because you're not outgunning Pat Mahomes. You're not outgunning Pat Mahomes. You're not outgunning, some of these elite quarterbacks. And I love Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones ain't Pat Mahomes. And we don't have the offensive mind like Andy Reid. The way to beat those teams is going to be with defense and running the ball, just like we did with Tom Brady and keeping that quarterback off the field. So this is the way. Now, if you want to have a fun team and they put up stats and fantasy numbers, sure. But if you want to have a legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl year in and year out, you're not beating Pat Mahomes by throwing the ball 50 times. You're just not. The best way to beat Pat Mahomes is running the ball down his throat, having a good defense, and winning the time of possession, just like we did Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. So I think the Giants are building the team the right way.
Yeah, I agree. And Ricky Jiang, thanks a lot, man. I didn't notice, but I'm over 400 subs. I was at like 394, so that's awesome. And maybe some guys from Instagram came over, but I really appreciate you if you came and subbed. Richard Lewis, he's given me awesome recommendations for videos. I really appreciate you being here. And I was going to talk about the now I forget what I was going to. I had a really good question and now I forgot it. But yeah, Thomas and Pert will be the longest arm length duo in the league. Actually, Andrew Thomas had the second longest arms after Matthew Pert in the entire NFL draft. So I do think our offensive line could be really good in a couple of years. He says Big Ass Saragusa kept guards off Lewis so he could make plays. Reed was a beast safety. Yeah, that's the thing with like that team in 2000 that destroyed us in the Super Bowl. The Ravens had two monster defensive tackles. Yep. And obviously Ray Lewis was such a good player, but he had so much like room to operate. And I feel like those defensive tackles like Saragusa, who didn't make that many plays, but he did clog up so many blockers. I feel like that was a big reason.
Great at what he did. And Holo Tinata was really good too later on.
Yeah. So yeah, the Ravens were they were a great defense.
Yeah.
If there is a way to get Mac for 2 years, you would take him. Khalil Mack, are you talking about? But the most impactful defensive player who's comparable to LT is Charles Haley. I didn't get a chance to see him, but I know he was on the 49ers and he was on a couple different teams.
Oh, the Cowboys too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to see him when I was younger, but I didn't. I couldn't probably appreciate him as well as I could. But I remember him as a kid with those teams.
Yeah, so Richard Lewis asked a good question, and I'll make it like 5 more minutes. I appreciate you coming on, man, because I remember you said you were going to make a video today.
Oh, no, of course, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it a lot. Who do you think is on the roster bubble? The most interesting like roster bubble situation to me is the receivers, because like I really like Austin Mack, I really like Benjamin Victor and Sills. So I feel like probably only one of those is going to make the team, and I'm not really sure who it's going to be. I would actually lean towards Austin Mack just because of his special teams. It seems like he could be good on special teams. I did read just before this morning that Sills at West Virginia was a gunner on the punt team, which is what Cody Core used to do. So maybe that gives him an edge. But yeah, which like roster bubble situation are you like most interested to see?
Yeah, I mean, wide receivers definitely got to be up there with all the undrafted free agent wide receivers we brought in. Linebackers interesting too. We drafted 30,000 in the last 2 rounds. So those two, I think we have a plethora of players that we're gonna have to cut down. So I think those are definitely spots that you want to keep an eye on. There was another spot too. Oh, the running back. I think the running back, whether or not they're going to go with 4 or 5. If they go with 4, do they cut Gallman? Do they cut Leak? Do they cut Lewis? Even though I don't think they would. But I think those are some of the spots I'm looking at. The running back, the wide receiver, those are some of the spots I'm looking at. I think cornerback, we're so decimated there. I pretty much think if you could play the position, you're making the team. So, I don't worry about Valentine, whether or not he's going to make the team. He'll be with the team. I think it's running back, wide receiver, and linebacker. I think those are your roster battles.
Yeah, I'm really interested in linebacker too, because like I've heard Ty Crowder, who was the last pick in the entire draft. He's looked really good in camp, and he's a former running back at Georgia, so he definitely has the athleticism. So I think we need that kind of athletic middle linebacker to go next to Blake Martinez, and hopefully it could be Connolly, but maybe one of these rookies can.
Maybe carry around. Who knows? Maybe he's better than what we think. Or maybe Carter. Lorenzo Carter. Maybe you shift him there in certain packages. Peppers could play there in certain packages. So I think they'll mix and match.
Yeah, Carter. Whenever I see Carter in coverage, I feel like he does a really good job, and they didn't really use him like that last year.
Yeah.
But I could see Carter, like if we play like a 3-3-5 defense, I could see Carter being that kind of hybrid pass rusher, or he could drop back and play off ball. So. Yeah, I think Carter can be maybe not get as many sacks as you would want, but I think he's going to be a good like all-around player for the Giants this year. So Steven asks, and I'll try to wrap it up now after this question, but and I appreciate you coming on, man. This has been a lot of fun.
Of course, man.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on Jalen Hurts? I thought it was a bad pick. I was like kind of confused, like because I feel like the Eagles need more weapons for Carson Wentz. And Wentz is a young guy, and I know he gets injured a lot, but it just didn't make sense to me. I remember I heard your interview with Brett Coleman, and it was like really interesting. And he was really high on Jalen Hurts. So did he like change your mind about him? Do you think that it was a good pick or no?
No. And maybe Jalen Hurts could be a good quarterback. I'm not saying he can't, but for the Eagles, doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. You just signed Carson Wentz to a huge extension. You have no cap space going forward. You're a team that needs to try to win a Super Bowl immediately. He doesn't accomplish that for you. We'll see what they do, and maybe they carve out some kind of role for him. People have talked about that, where maybe he has like a Taysom Hill like role or something like that. But no, I hated the pick for the Eagles. I loved it, as a Giants fan, but I hated that pick. If I'm an Eagles fan, I thought it was a horrible pick. I get that Carson Wentz is injury prone, everything else, but you probably could have waited another round if you really wanted him and got him in the 3rd, or you could have drafted another quarterback in the 4th or 5th round. You're a win-now team that needs to try to compete now. The Eagles don't have as big of a window as a lot of other teams. They have an aging team with a horrible cap situation. They should have used that pick to try to help out their quarterback. They didn't do it. I think it was a big mistake. Yeah,
like for them to go quarterback, if they picked a guy like Love, who Green Bay picked at the end of the 1st round, if they picked him in the 2nd round, I would like understand it a little bit. But I feel like Hurts was projected as like a 3rd or a 4th rounder. So like it was just a double whammy where it wasn't a good value pick and it wasn't a need at all. So I didn't like that pick, but I guess some people seem to be high on him though. Like I know Brett Coleman thinks he's going to be good. So maybe he'll surprise people. So Simon says, haven't heard much about Chris Williamson. Do you think Valentine or him have a better shot in the future? I know Williamson is a guy that has like a lot of size out of Minnesota, where maybe he would be like a safety corner hybrid. They're probably going to put him more at corner now since that's like a bigger need. But yeah, I haven't heard much about him during training camp. Who do you think out of those guys would have a better chance?
I would say Valentine. If it's between Williamson and Valentine, I would say Valentine probably has the better chance. We've heard some good things about him. He's already been in the NFL for 1 year. He's already started, even though it was more so at the slot where he got burnt, like you were saying in that Bears game. I do think Valentine's probably better equipped to play on the outside. So, yeah, I would say Valentine. I haven't heard much about Williamson at all, but because of his versatility, good chance he makes the team. Like I said, we're decimated in the secondary. The more bodies, the better. You got guys like Askew Henry that seem to be somewhat versatile as well, who seems to be like a similar type of player. But if I had to pick between those two, I'd say Valentine has a better chance to be the starting corner.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I feel like Valentine's good on special teams too, because he's like really athletic. I think him and Darnay Holmes are like our 2 most athletic corners. So maybe against those like really fast receivers like Jalen Reagor or like McLaurin.
Yeah.
they could be like a decent matchup for that. But yeah, man, this has been a lot of fun. I usually don't get this many people. I have over 20 people in here, so I do appreciate you coming on the stream, man. This has been a lot of fun. I love talking Giants, and thanks for calling on my Instagram, my new Instagram account as well. That was cool.
Of course, man.
And, yeah, like I'll give you a chance to just talk about your channel, because like I'm really interested to follow you during football season, because like I started following you like around the NFL draft this year or before the draft. So yeah, like is your channel going to be like similar during the football season? Or is it going to be new stuff as well?
Oh yeah. Well, first off, thank you for having me on. And I always love to work with as many Giants creators as I can. I think you're one of the most underrated in the community. I was excited when I got you on for the first time before you were on YouTube. When you were a writer for G-Men HQ, I think you do a great job. I definitely think you know a lot about the game. And I know your channel is going to continue to grow. And anytime I can work with you, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, whatever, I will. You're a great guy. And yeah, I love what you're doing over here. But yeah, as far as my channel goes, I try. I don't know if it'll be as frequent. The off season is really fun because there's a lot of speculating. There's rumors. So I did like 3 videos a day. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that, but there's gonna be more live streams. There's gonna be a lot more live streams. There's gonna be Q&As. I'm gonna have subscribers come on the channel. There's gonna be NFC's roundtables. We're gonna live stream the games. I'm gonna try to have a daily video. You're of course gonna have your game preview. There's, like I said earlier, there's always storylines from within the week. How are they using this player? There'll be a video a day on average. And I'm gonna have a lot of live streams. I'll be live probably 4 days a week talking Giants. I'll be live probably the night before the game with subscribers. I'll have the Q&A midweek. We're going to have the Talking Giants show. There's going to be a lot of live streams. There's going to be a lot of videos. Kind of slow right now because, like we were talking earlier, it's not a normal offseason. We don't have preseason games to talk about. All I'm doing is basically relaying what I'm hearing from training camp. I can't see it. I'm not there. So I'm just trying to give my opinion, I guess, on what's transpiring. But there's only so much you could talk about without bullshitting. And, that's kind of why I'm trying to hold back a little bit. I know it's going to be fast and furious once the season starts. But, yeah, I'm going to be very, very active on YouTube once the season starts. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait. I know I keep saying one more question. So I'm sorry. I thought of something I'm actually curious about. All right, so during the Giants games, if you and Bad Dog are streaming the game, like the Giants have been so bad recently. Do you like hate doing it when they're like getting crushed or they're losing? Are you kind of like, oh, I wish I wasn't doing this right now. I'd rather just like turn off the TV.
The streams at the end of the year, Bad Dog had to talk me into doing the last 2 weeks because I was just emotionally drained. I was like, oh my God. Well, I think they won week 15, but whatever, maybe it was week 6, whatever it was. It's when the Giants are that bad, it's tough. It's not easy to go on there and get rocked every week. And hopefully that's not the case, in the near future and we start to improve. I don't think we're going to get rocked this year. I know I'm saying I'm going with a realistic approach and we're going to win 5, 6, 7 games, but I think the games we lose will be competitive. I don't think there's going to be an embarrassing football team this year. I think they'll be fundamentally sound. I think they're going to come out with a good game plan every week, and they're going to give you their best effort. So I don't think it's going to be as tough to stream this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we're going to be more competitive. Like for myself during Giants games, I'm just like, oh, I don't want to watch this anymore. Like, and when they're losing, but when they're winning, I'm just like, I'm so into it. It would be hard for me to stream a game. So I give you a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's one of the funnest things I do on YouTube. And I just love talking Giants in general. Whenever I can, I love to come on, do the Q&As. Q&As might be my favorite thing. I love the Talking Giants show, but the Q&As when I get to really interact with my subscribers and talk to you guys and answer as many questions as I can and just have fun with the chat. I love doing everything, but yeah, I can't wait, man. I can't wait to see your channel grow, the whole Giants community grow. There's been so many new Giant YouTubers. They all seem like, most of them, I should say. You have a couple of rotten apples, but the majority of people on YouTube that are in the Giants community are all really good guys, and they all seem to, really love their team. And I guess I like to take, I like to think that I'm somewhat responsible for that there's been a lot more people that have joined the community. And, I've repped the Giants, and there's a lot of good creators, and you're definitely one of them.
I appreciate that, man. That means a lot because I never thought I would be good on video. Like I feel like I'm better as a writer at this point, but it is so much fun. Like I love like having you on and like talking Giants with you and other knowledgeable Giants fans like Big Blue Jabroni or just anyone that I talk with like a Giants YouTube creator. It's awesome. But I appreciate it, man. That means a lot.
Oh, he's
And,
another jabroni. I worked with him too. He's a good guy.
yeah, I don't know how to make someone like a. I was gonna make like Jay Berman a wrench or a moderator, but I don't know how to do it on StreamYard. But I'll do it another time. But yeah, I appreciate it, man. This has been a lot of fun. Please subscribe. Please give me a thumbs up on this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.